Ferrari versus Lamborghini. Which brand has made investors more money over 20 years? Here's a fact that will make every Ferrari purist furious. Over the last decade, the lesser brand, Lamborghini, has been beating Ferrari at the one game Ferrari supposedly owns, appreciation. According to Hagerty, the industry's most watched collector car valuation authority, Lamborghini values have been climbing faster than Ferraris. Ferraris built from 1963 onward appreciated just 6.6% over a recent 5-year window. Lamborghini? Multiples of that on its headline cars. So the question isn't as obvious as the badge snobbery suggests. If you had money to put into these two Italian legends over the last 20 years, which one actually paid you back? We're not talking about the companies. We're talking about the cars. Model by model. Purchase price versus today's market. No emotion, no engine notes, just the numbers. Let's run the tape. First, the framework, because this is where most comparisons cheat. A collector car is not a passive asset like a stock. It has a negative carry. According to alternative asset analysts, annual ownership costs, agreed value insurance, climate-controlled storage, maintenance, registration, typically run 4% to 14% of the car's value every single year. On $1 million car, that's $40,000 to $140,000 annually, gone, before you've made a cent. So when we say a car returned X%, understand that the real net of costs number is lower. A car has to appreciate meaningfully just to break even against its own upkeep. Second rule, within each brand, there are winners and there are wealth destroyers. Not every Ferrari appreciates. Not every Lamborghini appreciates. The mass-produced models, the ones built in the thousands, mostly bleed value like any luxury car, just slower. The money is made at the extremes: low production, historical significance, cultural gravity. So we're going to compare like for like. Vintage icon versus vintage icon. 90s hero versus 90s hero. Modern limited edition versus modern limited edition. 3 weight classes. Let's fight. Round 1. The Blue Chip Classics. Ferrari's champion, the 250 GTO. This is the most valuable car on Earth, full stop. Only 36 were built between 1962 and 1964. 20 years ago, a 250 GTO was a multi-million-dollar car, roughly $10 to $15 million in the mid-2000s. Today, examples trade north of $70 million, with private sales reported even higher. That's a 5 to 7 times move over the period. The 250 GTO is the single greatest store of value in the entire automotive world. But, and this matters, there are 36 of them on the planet. This is not an asset you or I will ever touch. It's the Mona Lisa. It sets the ceiling, not the market. Lamborghini's champion, the Miura. The first true supercar, fewer than 800 built, 1966 to 1973. Here's where it gets interesting. 20 years ago, a good Miura was a few $100,000. In 2017, an SV set a record at $2.54 million. By 2019, a Miura SV Speciale smashed that at $4.26 million at auction. A recent SV reportedly hit $4.9 million, a price Hagerty flagged as 34% above its own top Concours valuation. Do the math on entry point. A Miura bought for $300,000 or $400,000 2 decades ago and sold near record today is a 10 times plus return, a higher percentage gain than the 250 GTO delivered over the same window, off a fraction of the capital. Round 1 verdict, Ferrari owns the absolute dollar crown. But on percentage return from an accessible entry point, the Miura quietly outran the untouchable GTO. Point to Lamborghini on returns per dollar invested. Round 2. The bedroom wall generation. This is the hottest segment in the entire market right now, and it's driven by one force: demographics. The kids who taped these posters to their walls in 1994 are now 45 to 55-year-old buyers with peak purchasing power. They are coming for these cars, and the data shows it. Ferrari's champion, the F50. And the F50 is on an absolute tear. Values jumped over 60% in a single recent year, with the average sale price hitting $5.3 million. A special example, a rare color, low-mileage Ralph Lauren car pushed the ceiling even higher. 20 years ago, the F50 was a sub-$1 million car that many collectors overlooked in favor of the F40. Today, it's a $5 million asset. That's a 5 to 6 times move, with the steepest part of the curve happening right now. Lamborghini's champion, the Diablo. The Diablo is the textbook "the market hasn't caught up yet" story. A Diablo GT 80 built set a record at $1.435 million at Monterey. The rare SE30 variant currently trades in the $700,000 to $900,000 band. 20 years ago, base Diablos were depreciated used exotics. You could buy one for well under $150,000. That's roughly a 5 to 6 times move on the ordinary cars, and far more on the specials. And listen to what the auction houses are saying out loud. Bonham's Specialist expects Diablo SE30 values to hit $1 million to $2 million within 3 to 5 years. That's a public forecast, round 2 verdict. This is close to a draw, and that itself is the story. The Ferrari F50 has the higher absolute value and the more explosive recent momentum. But the Lamborghini Diablo offered a dramatically lower entry price 2 decades ago, meaning the percentage return for an ordinary buyer was comparable or better, and the forward-looking upside per the specialists may still be greater. Advantage F50 on momentum, advantage Diablo on remaining runway. Round 3. The modern era money printers. This is the segment that shatters the cars are a bad investment cliché, and it is overwhelmingly a Ferrari story. Ferrari's champion, the 458 Speciale Aperta, 499 built. In 2020, you could buy one for around $500,000. In January 2026, the best examples sold for as much as $3.08 million at auction, with the model broadly worth $2 million plus. On an inflation-adjusted basis, that's roughly a 150% return in 5 years. Now hold that number against the benchmark. The S&P 500 returned about 94% over the same 5 years. And that's before adjusting for inflation. The Ferrari beat the index on a like-for-like basis, and you got to drive it. Ferrari has an entire arsenal here. The 360 Challenge Stradale, roughly $185,000 in 2018, over $1 million today. The Enzo 400 built, values more than doubled from new. The LaFerrari, the Monza SP1 and SP2, the F80 hypercar, sold out at $3.9 million a car before deliveries even began. This is a systematic, repeatable machine for producing appreciating assets. Ferrari engineers scarcity on purpose, capping production around 10,000 plus units a year against far greater demand. And the limited editions are the direct financial payoff. Lamborghini's champion, the Aventador, and the Murcielago before it. Here, Lamborghini is genuinely weaker. These are excellent cars, but they were built in far larger numbers than Ferrari's limited editions, so most trade as slowly depreciating used supercars, not appreciating assets. There are bright spots. A low-mileage early Murcielago sold 67% above its top book value, But Lamborghini simply does not run the same disciplined limited edition appreciation playbook that Ferrari has perfected in the modern era. Round 3 verdict: decisive win for Ferrari. In the modern limited edition game, Ferrari is in a class of its own. This is where the prancing horse pulls decisively ahead. Let's tally the head-to-head. Vintage heavyweights. Ferrari owns the absolute dollar records, but Lamborghini's Miura delivered a higher percentage return off an accessible entry point. Edge Lamborghini on returns per dollar. 90s analog, a genuine coin flip. Ferrari's F50 has explosive current momentum. Lamborghini's Diablo has a lower historical entry and, per specialists, more room left to run. Modern limited editions, a clean, decisive Ferrari knockout. So here's the uncomfortable, controversial truth that cuts both ways. If you're a purist who assumed Ferrari crushes Lamborghini across the board, you're wrong. On the vintage and 90s cars, Lamborghini has been the faster appreciating brand off realistic buy-in prices, and Hagerty's data confirms Lambo has been outpacing Ferrari in recent years. But if you're the Lamborghini fan ready to celebrate, not so fast. Ferrari's modern machine for manufacturing appreciating limited editions is something Lamborghini simply cannot match. Over a full 20-year horizon, spanning all 3 weight classes, Ferrari's consistency and its dominance of the modern segment give it the overall edge as a wealth builder, while Lamborghini has been the higher beta, faster-moving play on the classics. 2 different investment profiles. Ferrari, the blue-chip compounder. Lamborghini, the momentum trade that's been catching up fast. But here's the final point, and it's the most important one in this entire video, because it changes everything. Everything we just discussed assumes you have the capital to buy, insure, store, and maintain a 6- or 7-figure car, eating that 4 to 14% annual cost drag, accepting that these assets are illiquid, that selling means brokers, auctions, and months of waiting, and that any single car can be hit by a market cycle, a bad restoration, or a shift in taste. There is a far simpler way to bet on one of these brands, because only one of them lets you buy the company itself. Ferrari is publicly traded, ticker race on the New York Stock Exchange, and its record as a stock is staggering. Since its October 2015 IPO, Ferrari stock has delivered a total return of roughly 673% versus about 306% for the S&P 500 over the same stretch. Over the last 10 years, race compounded at north of 23% annually, nearly double the S&P 500's, roughly 12.5%. No storage, no insurance, no maintenance, fully liquid. One click to buy, one click to sell. Lamborghini, you cannot buy it. It's owned by Volkswagen, wrapped inside the Audi division. There is no Lamborghini stock. There have been persistent rumors of a potential IPO, but as of today, if you want direct equity exposure to the raging bull, the public market gives you nothing. So the real head-to-head ends with an asymmetry no auction result can fix. You can own a piece of Ferrari from your phone for the price of a single share. To own a piece of Lamborghini, you have to buy the whole car and everything that comes with it. A quick note before you go. None of this is investment advice. Past performance doesn't predict future returns. Ferrari's stock is down over the past year, and its own management has guided to slower growth ahead, and the collector market moves in cycles. Do your own research and talk to a licensed advisor before putting money into any of this. But if the question is simply, which brand has made investors more money? Ferrari gives you 2 ways to win. Lamborghini gives you 1. And that, more than any auction record, is the real answer.